Good morning and welcome back to My Dad's a Lawyer, a podcast about life, law, and other stuff. I'm Noah Mittman, son and a lawyer.
And I'm Brian Mittman, dad and lawyer. You look nice and awake there, no?
Thank you. I just rolled right out of bed into my little podcast studio I have.
Oh, you deserve to do that every once in a while.
Yes,
Nothing wrong with.
I'm actually taking today off. One of my friends is coming up from Florida who moved down there a couple months ago, so I took the day off, going to spend it in the city with him.
Oh, that's really, really nice. And I know that it's your buddy Josh, so you tell him I said hello.
Yes, he gets a shout out on the podcast.
Absolutely. I remember. My God, when did you start college?
2014.
Wow. So 10 years ago.
Yes.
I remember walking into that dorm room the first day, and you had this crazy dorm room that was like the door opened, and right in front of you was like a wall, like the edge of a wall and a little refrigerator, and on each side was literally like a bed and a cubby hole and a desk.
Honestly, looking back at it, it was great. We each had like our own little area.
No, it was a really cool room for what it was because you didn't have to see your roommate, so to speak. You had this like big
you had
wall
your own
between
room.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, you had your own room, really. It was a small room, but it was my own room.
Hey, prison, baby.
Yeah. All right. Well, as of the recording of this episode, we will not be having a game 6 of the World Series because the Yankees brutally lost and cost themselves the series.
That they did. And, I give credit to the Dodgers because they are a phenomenal baseball team. No
Yes.
doubt about it. But this game 5 was the Yankees to lose without a doubt. The only real positive out of all this is, and we were talking about before we got on air, I can actually go to bed at a reasonable hour now.
I know. The game started at 8, so you were staying up till, midnight every night watching them.
Yeah, I'm like a 10 o'clock in bed guy, so.
Of course.
Pretty crazy.
The most successful people go to bed early and wake up early.
Yeah. And the problem is when I go to bed late, I still wake up early, so.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, it was, the only way I can describe what's going on. And for those that don't follow baseball at all, the Yankees were down. You have to win 4 out of 7 games. The Yankees were down 3-0. They go in and they win on Monday. They win the game in decisive order.
No, they won
Tuesday. Sorry. Yeah. Tuesday, they win it decisively. And there was some momentum. They start off game 5 on fire.
5-0.
5-0. Like, we got this. Garrett Cole was pitching lights out. And then the Bad News Bears or your 12th grade, 12-year-old Little League team came up to bat, or actually came up to play in the field, and it was a disaster.
This is the first time I'm talking about it since it happened. But
I refused to read anything about it yesterday.
But there was an interesting moment that happened in game 4 with a fan interference. For those of you that didn't see, Mookie Betts, the right fielder for the Dodgers, caught the ball out of the field of play. It was right on the wall. And once it was in his mitt, a Yankee fan attempted to pry the ball out of his glove and throw it back onto the field. So I just wanted to get your opinion on the legality of it. Can you interfere with players? What could be the ultimate result if something bad happened? Let's say he injured him or broke his hand, or what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so part of me was humor, and part of me was like, what a dumb idiot. I mean, so just to be clear, like, in right field of Yankee Stadium, there's a wall, a ledge, and it kind of goes up at a very slight angle till it gets really high. So if you're a fan sitting there, at one point you're at field level, and as you go further into the field, you're higher and higher up. So Mookie Betts makes this incredible jump, sticks his glove out into the off of the play, into literally the stands, grabs the ball, and these guys grab his hand and his arm. So he's literally like, his arm is being pulled. I mean, he's on the ground, but he's being pulled. So,
Right.
you know, from that perspective, that was idiotic, because if you had injured this guy, man, that was bad news. Now, clearly it was a couple of very drunk, real Bronx Bomber fans.
Yes.
So that's why it was kind of humorous, because when you saw the one guy like with two hands trying to open the glove like a clam and take the ball out, you're like, oh, that's funny, but it was really stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, and personally, and I've had this opinion, you know this. If you go to a baseball game and a Yankee Stadium, you go to a baseball game, and if somebody from the other team hits a home run, they literally force the person who catches the ball to throw it back.
We've spoken about this.
And it makes me nuts, because you know what? You catch a baseball is very rare. I don't care if it was the other team. Keep it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
If I'm catching a home run, I don't care who hit it or what team it was. I'm keeping the home run ball.
Right. And I know we're diverging from this, but can you imagine this? What if you catch a home run ball from like a great player on the other team and you throw it back, and then that player becomes a Yankee? Really?
Or makes the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. It bugs me. Anyway,
oh yeah, you continue.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. We're talking about fan interference.
I was going to say, to end that topic, the fans ultimately got kicked out of the game and banned for coming back for Game 5.
Well, I heard, and I didn't check it out yet, but I heard that they've actually been banned now for 10 years.
No way. All right.
And this is a season ticket holder. So think about that. All because you were dumb enough to, let me take this out of the guy's hand. And they also talked about it, that they pre-planned it, and the guy went to Billy's, which is this gigantic bar, after he got kicked out. He was in fact escorted out by all these officers who all knew him, because he's a regular fan that knows everybody, and he was like signing autographs and stuff at Billy's bar. Like, really?
Taking pictures with everybody. And he was saying, what he was saying was, if the ball was coming in their area, he would D it up and play defense for the Yankees.
Yeah, so I haven't heard the official. I mean, I'm looking now.
I saw MLB wanted them banned for longer. The Yankees, and on a positive note, the Yankees, I don't know if you know this, but the Yankees took their tickets and gave it to 2 pediatric cancer survivors.
That I saw, which was awesome.
Yeah. So good came out of it.
Well, listen, baseball's over now. I was very thrilled the Yankees had made it. I was actually a little surprised we made it to the World Series. So while I'm extremely disappointed, I'm not that disappointed at this point, because now we can focus on football and hockey.
Go Birds.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Anyway, so I have a bit of an old guy question for you, because it's going to impact us greatly this weekend. This weekend is daylight savings time, where we fall back. We gain an hour. So it's going to be darker earlier and lighter later, or is it reverse? I always get that screwed up.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So
fall back, spring forward.
Exactly. So when I grew up, it was a big thing. And yeah, I remember the next morning we'd have to go around and, change all the clocks. So we had semi-digital clocks. We had, analog clocks. Now with the phone, it just changes. So do you even care about daylight savings time as a young individual?
No, only when it gives me an extra hour in the day. Other than that, it means nothing to me. I think they were trying to get rid of it for a while.
Oh, they still are. There was big news today that 20 states have proposed changes. Hawaii and Arizona do not. They have made daylight savings time permanent. So that means it is lighter out later.
Okay.
Right. So
right.
When it was 7 o'clock, it's now 6 o'clock.
Right.
So
it's hard to figure out. But when is daylight savings?
Saturday night, 2 a.m.
Wow.
And another little tidbit I heard is, why is it 2 a.m. on a Saturday night? Supposedly there was something to do with the railroads, and it was easier to adjust the schedules back in the day when railroads were everything. But
it's 2024. We could get over it and move on and maybe come up with something new since we don't need it anymore.
all right, so there you hear it from the mouth of babes. The old guy wants daylight, doesn't want it. The new guy wants it. All right, so got a couple different interesting. It's New York based, but it goes far beyond that. But kind of like some New York like stuff in the news. I don't know if you saw it, but New York City recently, quote unquote, legalized jaywalking.
Yes. Yes, I
So,
did
so
see that.
what is jaywalking for those that don't live in the big city?
When you cross the street, not in a sidewalk.
Right. So, you don't cross it at the crosswalk. You come out from between parked cars. You scoot over the street. So, supposedly, up until the other day, jaywalking was potentially a $250 violation. And even the police didn't want to deal with having to ticket jaywalkers and stuff like that.
I feel like it was never enforced. You know how many
Oh.
times I've jaywalked in the city? I've never gotten a ticket.
Well, you'll be happy to know you cannot get a ticket now. However, Mr. Lawyer, my son, the lawyer, how will that impact a negligence case? So if I'm driving along the street and somebody pops out between two cars and I smush them, I mean, it's not a crime on their part for popping out from between two cars, but am I liable?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. Well, my first answer I can give you is number one, you can never hit a pedestrian no matter what the circumstance is. Two, it probably would go to comparative negligence on the pedestrian. Usually it probably wouldn't because they, were jumping out, or should I say comparative negligence on the driver. Because jaywalking was illegal. So you were doing something illegal and you weren't allowed to go out into the middle of the street and cross it. But now that you're allowed to do it, there might be some negligence on the driver now for hitting you or the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a pure negligence type of thing of like, hey, would a reasonable person expect somebody to pop out from between a
Yeah.
car? I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I don't think it takes away, you're stupid to jaywalk,
Yes.
bottom line. But especially like if you're popping out from between two cars.
Right. Right.
If there's nothing going on around there and you're just kind of scooting over the street, that's one thing.
Uh-huh.
But it's going to, I think, impact some lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, there used to be more protections for drivers for jaywalkers because it was illegal. And now that it's not, I guess there might be some less protections. So keep an eye out when you're driving and when you're jaywalking.
Yeah, we're just don't drive in the city.
I know, it's the worst.
It really is the absolute worst. All right, so that is jaywalking. So there's also another trend that has been going on, subway surfing.
Yes. That was a great game growing up on the early iPhones.
Yeah. So tell us, what is subway surfing?
When you jump on top of the subway and ride the train like a surfboard almost. You're
like in the
surfing on
movies,
top.
right?
Yeah, you're surfing on top of the subway.
Yeah, well,
very dangerous.
Incredibly dangerous. And unfortunately, this year alone, I just saw that there's been 6 people killed, subways, actually really 6 teenagers killed. It's become a trend on TikTok where people are on the top of the train riding and they're playing some like crazy, music and like doing stuff. And it's just really, really scary.
So stupid. I can't believe people do that.
Yeah. Do you think there's any liability there on part of the MTA? This is after all like life of the law and other stuff.
Personally, I don't think there would be. You're not allowed to do that. I'm sure there's statutes and laws and rules about it. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do that. So, just personally, I would think that the MTA wouldn't be responsible, but there's always a lawyer out there who can figure out a way to make them responsible. They didn't have, gates guarding a certain area where people could jump down onto the train, and they knew that people were jumping from this area or this bridge onto trains, and they didn't prevent it and didn't put up fences. In that situation, maybe you might be able to make it a case. But generally, I mean, if someone came to me with this case, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah, that's kind of like a tree falling on the side of a railroad track.
Yes.
You never know. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that for the most part, there's probably not liability, but in certain circumstances, the MTA could, find itself, in problematic situation.
Yes. Yes,
You know,
definitely.
I'm assuming we're going to start seeing like signs posted like no subway surfing.
Right. You
But
would
as a
think.
game, I remember you playing that game on your early
It was a
iPhone.
great game.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Kind
All
of
right. Well, we
brutal.
have one more subway topic. This one is a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah, some heavy stuff we're talking about today.
I know. I know. We brought out all the topics today. We haven't brought you a topic filled episode in a while.
So, a trial has started in New York City. The jury's been picked, and it's of the Daniel Penny chokehold case. This made national and international news. A former Marine was on a subway last year, and was it last year, year and a half ago, whatever it was? And a very disturbed individual came onto the subway, basically threatening that he didn't care what was going on. He was going to kill everybody or he'll die trying. And Daniel Penny, along with some others, but Penny helped like wrestle this guy to the ground and he put him in a chokehold. Now, Penny was a trained Marine, trained killer type of guy. And he was holding on to this guy, and the guy was, for a while, really, agitated and stuff like that. And then at some point, he died from the chokehold. And Penny got arrested. At first, wasn't arrested, then got arrested. And there's a lot of outcry in the city in both ways about this tragedy, right? And so the trial starts today, and is very reminiscent of other situations in years past in the city. 40 some years ago, there was the Bernie Getz where he pulls a gun out on the subway and shot and killed people. And that was like,
Right.
crazy stuff. But there's a lot of other, situations where, what do you do? I mean, if I was on that subway car, just from the sounds of it, I would be thankful that somebody stepped up and did something.
I know. I know. And especially with this day, in this day and age, like you were talking about the guy who shot up the subway. I mean, these public, I call them domestic terrorists, I guess you can call it, domestic terrorist events happen all over the country. Mass shootings, stabbings, these domestic terrorist attacks, and people get scared, especially in public situations. So nowadays, when someone's coming onto a subway threatening to shoot up the subway and kill people on the subway, people are going to get involved and try to suppress and stop the suspect. I don't know if he was actually going to do it, but in this day and age, with everything going on, I think people are more inclined to get involved and say something or try to suppress the situation.
Yeah, and it's even crazier because it turns out that this individual who died was very well known to the police as having a lot of mental health issues. But
Right.
you and I don't know that.
Right.
And then on top of it, then there's some questions. Oh, should he have kept holding onto the chokehold? I am assuming that Penny had never really used that chokehold in a real life or death situation.
Right.
He wasn't necessarily in combat, hand to hand fighting or something.
Right.
So you don't know, and you don't know, was it too long, or would a different person have not
Well,
died?
that's a great point.
Or,
Because it's up to, these questions you're asking are up to a jury to decide. So I'm sure one of the arguments is going to be on the prosecution side. One of the arguments might be, well, he's a trained Marine. He knows the severity of the chokehold he did, and that he shouldn't have held it for that long because he should have known that it could have killed him. Whereas an average person, has no idea. They're just putting somebody in a chokehold or trying to stop them, and they don't know that, holding the chokehold for 5 minutes is going to hurt someone. So I'm sure that's going to be an argument that the prosecution makes.
Yeah, but also on the other side is, and when you're in a mental health crisis, you don't know the severity of that individual. I was actually out to dinner with a bunch of doctors, one's a psychiatrist who works with oftentimes some very violent people. And he was telling me that he has had all this training just in case he's ever alone. But like if he's alone with somebody who's becoming violent and he can't calm the situation down, he has a button he presses, and the A team comes in and you know helps keep a person down. He was telling us a story that in line with this, that you never know the strength or the quote unquote craziness of an individual in
Right.
that dire circumstance, right? Because they're having their own mental health crisis. And he had this one woman one time who was, off the charts, and he ended up having to press the button. The team came in. They could barely suppress her. And while it was going on, they ended up calling the police. Then the police came and had to tase her 3 times. Then got her all calmed down, took her to the hospital, all that stuff. But here you are, a whole series of professionals.
I know, in a professional setting where you're trained to deal with this.
Right. So I mean, it will be a very interesting trial. I just don't think it's. I mean, listen, you can't go by what we just hear in the news, right?
I know.
But at the same time, it seems as just a tragic event all around.
Definitely a tragic event. But if I know that if I were on the subway and someone was screaming like that, I would want somebody to take action and suppress the threat.
Yeah, I don't know what he's actually being charged with. So that's just for since we're on the legal topic here, and neither of us are criminal attorneys. What happens is there's different crimes. So there's manslaughter, homicide, different levels of it, involuntary, voluntary. So it all depends. I don't know what the prosecution is trying to charge him with, and what he either may be convicted with or it might be thrown out for.
Second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide.
Okay, so that's not fairly low, but that's kind of lower on the list of severity. And I think that basically means that it's saying, hey, look, at some point you should have realized what you were doing was pretty stupid and dangerous. And at this point, you're liable from a criminal perspective.
Yeah, second-degree manslaughter is a reckless conduct, murder.
Right. So we'll see. Was this reckless? Was it not? Be very interesting to see the outcome.
I know. It'd be very interesting to be on this jury.
Yeah, well, your mother would not have wanted to be on it, but she did get off her jury, so.
Nobody wants to be on jury duty ever.
I don't know. I mean, going back to the jury that you picked and watching them, they seem to be pretty into it.
I picked a good jury.
I guess there wasn't much to do up in Rockland that week.
I know. All right.
So, wow. So, yeah. So, think about that. Subways, crossing the street, riding on top, inside. Yeah, it's life. We do it every day, and here's where life and the law really kind of big time cross paths.
Yep. So maybe on the next episode we'll have a result of the trial and we'll be able to talk about it and see what happened.
Excellent. And maybe we'll have some better sports news with the Birds.
Yes.
Versus the Yankees. Anyway, so thank you guys for joining us. I am Brian Mittman. I am a lawyer and the dad.
And I'm Noah Mittman, a son and a lawyer. And you can follow me at a lawyer.
And you can follow me at the Disability Guys.
Have a good day, everybody.